Hey, everybody. Today's podcast is brought to you by audible.com. You can go to www.audibletrial.com/TNRL and sign up for a free 30-day trial membership. And with that free 30-day trial membership, you get a free audiobook download. Audible.com is a great source for audiobooks. They have over 100,000 titles to choose from. Plays on your iPod, pad, phone, anything, MP3 player, just about every audio device out there. And they have lots to choose from. And the beauty of it is that you can go in and do this, sign up for the free membership. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything, and we get a little something out of it, and it's a great way to support the show. And with that support, we hope to do bigger and better things and be more out there and do the things that people say they like us to do. Actually, there's a couple people that have written us nice emails that like the show, and we want to make the show bigger and better. Please sign up for the audibletrial.com. And if you like it, then you can stick with it, and you can listen to more audiobooks. It's a good way to catch up on your reading, I guess, while you're driving in the car or making your commute. Anyway, www.audibletrial.com/TNRL, free 30-day trial plus one free audio download. Take it away, Ken.
Jesus got out here.
I thought I was a good Christian.
Jesus died on a cross. I go to church every Sunday. Jesus got out here. Then I read that Jesus died on a cross for a rotten hooker.
I thought I was a good Christian.
I go to church every Sunday.
I thought I was a good Christian.
I go to church every Sunday. I am a very religious person.
I thought I was a good Christian.
The very lie the serpent told to Eve in the Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spread confusion and promote lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spread confusion and promote lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spread confusion and promote lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spread confusion and promote lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spread confusion and promote.
Hey everybody, it is Monday, July 2nd, 2012, This Non-Religious Life. I'm your host, Ken, and all the way across the country we have Bob.
How's it going?
And Jason.
Hey, how you doing?
And we have so much stuff to talk about, I don't even know how we're going to get all this stuff. So let's just dive in. We were sharing a few news articles with each other earlier in the week, and I think one of the ones that's probably the most ridiculous is this quote from Mike Huckabee about
awesome.
how
I like the way these news stories get batted around between us, and the subject lines are like, if you think that's fucked up, read this.
It really is too, and every time I read one of them, I'm like, there's no way anyone could top this. And then Jason comes out with another one. So Huckabee, Obama could deny water for baptisms. And basically what he's saying is that if Obama's contraception insurance policy isn't stopped, the next logical line of thinking for Huckabee is that the EPA will be telling Baptists they can't baptize people because it uses too much water.
I think Gomer Pyle here is off his fucking rockers. Huckabee is the biggest douchebag.
Nuts, man. He's absolutely insane.
But anyway.
That's pretty crazy.
Did you guys read the comments on the news site?
I never read comments.
I usually do read the comments. And that's a great source of joy in my life is reading those comments. But I didn't get to look at those.
Oh, they're phenomenal. Like, one of them here is worse yet, the EPA will insist that holy water be replaced with dihydrogen monoxide, a known deadly acid. Will scald the kids.
Not dihydrogen monoxide.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of them that's like saying that the just think of all that holy water getting into the system's diluted homeopathic levels of holiness returning to the nation's groundwater.
The more you dilute it, the stronger it gets.
Yeah, of course. One of them is talking about how there's no known methods for sewage treatment plants to remove holiness from water. It's polluted forever. Yeah. I just love it. I love how the far right, and especially the evangelical far right, can take something as simple as contraception policy and turn it into some sort of war on religion that has nothing to do with contraception. It has to do with baptisms.
But the crazier part of that is that they do this and they know people will believe them. It's not like they make up shit and people look at them and go, they're batshit crazy. People look at them and go, you know what? He's right.
I mean, sadly, I think you're right. But it just blows my mind that the whole world doesn't look at that comment and just be like, oh, that guy's an asshat, and move on. But you're right. I think you're right. Somebody will take that and run with it.
I think they've already proven that. It's all over the news, and people are like, woo.
How could they... All right, so, first of all, when did we start having a water shortage? When did that become a thing?
Well, I mean, with Twilight making vampires very popular, the need for holy water has increased because, holy water repels vampires. So there's been a shortage for a while now. Catholic Church, when they're not doing exorcism, has been set up factories where they're using child slavery to create holy water.
What was the movie where the dude just stuck the cross and blessed the water in the sprinkling system? Boom, all of it's holy water. That was brilliant.
Do you remember the scene in Dogma when they go to shove the kid demons? They shove their faces in the sink, and she slides across and blesses the sink.
Yeah. Her power was to bless. She as a descendant of Christ, she had the power to make water holy.
Yeah, sanctification.
So how does this play into all the reports that we see that skeptics are against, that where water has memory? And
yeah.
Oh God, yeah. Let's not get into the homeopathic debate here. That's a whole other bucket of diluted crazy.
Yeah, we can sit here and make
undiluted crazy, really.
We should get to other topics.
Okay, so now that we know that's crazy, in South Carolina there was a woman who I guess I want to say she was a DUI.
Yeah, she was a
DUI. What it was?
Yeah,
DUI, and
she injured several people.
She injured several people, and the judge gave her the sentence of reading the Old Testament book of Job and writing a summary of it. That's her punishment.
Yeah, that judge should be disbarred.
Well, the one thing is, if she's Christian, this is not a punishment, because she's probably like, oh yay, whatever.
Right, that's why she agreed to it.
Yeah. Number two, lawyers say that as long as she's in on the ruling from day one and agrees with it from the beginning,
it's not
illegal.
Can do
it. He can do it. But the flip side, judges can't just throw random bullshit into rulings.
Okay, fine. This was an interesting story, and there's a lot of layers to it. And this was not her first offense. She was a repeat offender. She injured two people who are now going to live the rest of their lives with the repercussions of getting hit by her drunk ass. The one guy is still in surgery. One guy may lose a leg. Another guy can't. He's had spinal problems. He can't sit for longer than an hour or something. They just sort of gloss over this at the end. So her actions dramatically decrease the quality of life for two people. And she's done it before, so she's a repeat offender. And rather than send her to jail, she has to write an essay about the Book of Job. And I guess the reason why the Book of Job is pertinent to her case is that she has claimed a history of abuse, where she said that when she was 10 or 11, some uncle or somebody like doused her in kerosene and set her on fire. That's equally horrible, and that person needs to be punished for that crime. However, that does not give her license to ruin other people's lives.
No, that's true.
Yeah, I agree.
The question I have outside of why the hell did they choose this punishment? What is in Job that talks about drunk drivers, or that is relevant to this situation?
I guess the context in Job is that, you know, even though Job was the most faithful, God throws all of these punishments at him for no other reason than to just test his faith, and Job still remains, I guess, faithful. I guess he's trying to draw this parallel. Like, I know these horrible things happen to you, but
you have reason to continue them. What?
I don't know. I mean, I don't get the lesson either. I'm trying to make it fit, but I just don't know how.
Yeah, in Job, Job was wealthy. He had a family. He had everything, really, and he was also incredibly faithful. But one day Satan came to God and said, "Hey, you know, like, you seem to love this guy. I don't think he's really, you know, worth your time. I mean, he has everything. Of course he loves you. I guarantee if you took everything away from him, if you, you know, killed his family and inflicted him with horrible diseases and took away his wealth and his land, and he would fall away from you faster than, you know, a rotten fig. You know, he would just be like, gone. And so God says, you know what? You're on. Let's go. Go kill his family. Take away his wealth. Do everything. And Satan does. He goes and, like, you know, slaughters his family. And
all right. So I guess this is a point. Does Satan do these things, or does God do them at Satan's behest?
Satan does them. It's
Okay.
the only time in the Bible where you actually see Satan taking an active role in doing things.
That slacker.
Yeah.
See, I always saw Job as sort of the, like, God is a major dick story. Like, just like...
Oh, yeah. It really is. It's one of the worst stories as far as... but it's an ancient attempt to explain theodicy, the root of evil. The point of Job is that terrible things happen to good people, but you still have to be a good person despite it.
Don't you find it funny
yeah.
that Job is also spelled Job, and these Jobs treats us the same way as God and Satan? Anyway. Just kidding.
That's because it's an evil conspiracy.
That's what I was going for. But I still don't see the connection between this woman injuring people and having a horrible life and doing things that she's chosen to do to cause pain to these people. And
I mean, I'm sure she's a lovely person. I'm sure she's...
No, she's
I'm
not.
sure she's
She
a tragic
intentionally...
soul.
She's intentionally drank and got behind the wheel.
Well, nobody...
We make mistakes.
Right. She definitely made a mistake, and she didn't intend to hurt anybody. But
As soon as she got drunk and got behind the wheel, yes, she
made a bad
did.
decision and is held accountable to it. I agree with that. What I'm saying is she didn't get behind the wheel and go, man, I'm hoping for a car with two other people in it. I bet I can get them both. Right? That thought didn't go through her mind. However, she made a bad decision when she got in the car and said, I'll be fine. Right? Bad decision. And and it didn't work out that way, and so now she's accountable for it. She should be accountable for it, not writing essays about a crappy.
But there was
Bible
there was more to her sentence than writing the essay, right?
I don't know how much jail time she got.
She got fined, though, right?
I don't think it says.
If she's not in jail for a long time, then that is a miscarriage of justice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine being the guys that she hit, whose lives did she ruin? Like, you know, I mean, I know there's not a lot of solace in the fact.
Oh, she got 8 years in jail, followed by 5 years probation.
And probably
So.
should be longer.
As well as substance abuse counseling. That's what she got.
Yeah, I don't know. This judge is. I'm not a judge, I'm not a lawyer, but this seems like a bad idea.
So outside, on top of knowing that she received, and I don't know in Carolina if what the normal procedure is of somebody being convicted of injuring people while drunk driving. I don't know. I don't know if 8 years is the standard issue of time.
Yeah. I don't know.
But for sake of argument, let's say it is. Let's say if you, no matter what, when you do this action, this is the X amount of time you get. With that said, she saying that she got what is common to everyone else.
Right. She had the
still adding on top of that the Bible thing. What makes it wrong? What makes it extraordinary?
Well, it's an unusual punishment, which by itself would make it unconstitutional or illegal, but she consented to it, so that kind of makes it in bounds, as I understand it. I don't know. I think it's silly, but
But who consents to punishment?
Well,
I mean, when psychologically, when people feel guilty for something, they can sometimes agree to punishments. If she feels guilty about it and she thinks that punishment is in line on top of what she's already getting with what she did, it's not uncommon to have people consent to punishment.
So 8 years plus
5 years probation, plus drug counseling, plus writing an essay.
So what's the argument?
I just don't think that she should. I mean, it's in the news because it's an unusual punishment, and she consented to it, which makes it a legal punishment. But at the end of the day, I'm just like, what's the point? You know? And like I said, there's very little solace if you're the victim of something like that. If you get hit by a drunk driver and you're, looking at a lifetime of surgery and life-altering debilitations, there's very little solace to be had in the fact when you're told, like, well, that person's in jail. And so I don't know. It's like so now they're told, well, that person's in jail, and they're writing an essay about Job.
So would you find objections to it or uniqueness to it if the judge said, all right, now that you've done this, I need you to watch 12 hours of, DUI gore films and then write an essay about it?
Yeah, that would. I think that would be unusual too, and I don't know which one would be more effective as far as like rehabilitating somebody. I don't really know, but it just seems like this whole idea of writing an essay about Job is silly. I just don't see the value in it.
Do you think we'll see more of it? I mean, because Carolinas have been doing a lot of unique things when it comes to church and state and denial of certain science.
Yeah, I mean, if you get sentenced to that and you say, and they're like, here's your jail time and you have to write an essay about the story of Job. If you said, well, I'm not going to do that, I'm an atheist, then they would have no recourse but to drop that facet of the punishment. You're still going to jail.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know where I stand on it yet. It's one of those really nuanced and hard to weigh issues, because she is getting 8 years of prison, which is no small amount of time, plus 5 years probation, plus the drug counseling, which is all pretty in line with what she did. I don't know. It's Job, which makes it kind of relevant. Just given her background, so like case history, it's I don't know. It's weird because Job is probably one of the least theological books in the Bible. It's kind of theological, but it's not like they said, I want you to read the Gospel of John and write an essay on Jesus. Job is more of interesting Iron Age philosophy book. So I don't know. It's weird.
And there's been no statement from the judge about it yet. I haven't seen it. Have you up
if
yet?
she consents to it, he's not under any obligation to explain himself.
No,
of course not.
Although I think it's kind of I don't know. It's in the headlines because it is unusual, and it may have been something done intentionally to garner headlines. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, jumping tracks a little bit, but kind of stay on the line of mincing that church-state line. Another one that Jason sent out is the Bible a threat to national security? And I actually didn't know about this, but who is it? It is God. Where is it? The Holman Bible. They put out a soldier's Bible with an Army seal, a Marine's Bible with a Marine Corps seal, a sailor's Bible, and an airman's Bible with their respective insignias. And these are sold at not just at Christian bookstores, but commissaries and PXs on military installations. Bob, you were in the Navy. Do you have one?
No, I don't. But you know what? If you look at the timeline of that, they started publishing the Holman Bibles, I think, in 2004, and I was already out of the service then.
Ah, okay.
But
would you have got one?
No. But you know, the fact that someone's in the service, that they're entitled to have a Bible. You know, like they should have. If they want one, they should have it.
Sure.
But when the Bible becomes endorsed by that branch of service or by the military in general, then it's a problem. And
yeah, I think it's a dangerous message. From an outsider perspective, you know, and we're fighting wars. I was talking to Jason about this before the show. You know, we're fighting wars in two Muslim nations. You know, it's not just this. It's there's a whole bunch of things, and people are really starting to pay attention now to the far right evangelical pressures in the armed services with, you know, those faith concerts and the rifle scopes that had Bible verses engraved in them as the serial numbers. That's a serious thing. You know, you try to say we're not fighting a religious war, but you know, when the evidence stacks up like that, it certainly seems like we are.
But we also talked about in previous shows, we even had guests talk about it, where chaplains, military personnel teach the Bible to make it okay or make it seem that you are still doing God's work when you kill the enemy.
Right, we had a whole show about the Air Force, their training program.
Yeah,
the training program where it's Jesus and nukes, right?
Yeah, it was, but they're playing with that idea of the just war.
Yeah,
and you're just, your cause is just because God is on your side, and I mean I guess I could see why they would do that, but now it's becoming more than that. Now it's becoming like you said, there's like these predatory evangelicals within the military that are trying to turn us, you know, it seems like, you know, like it sounds sinister, but it seems like they're trying to back the Christian nation with our Christian army.
Yeah. I like the way this article put it. It said, you know, there's a para-church within the military, and you know, there's these faith concerts, and in Virginia, up at what was the Army base, there was one of these concerts, and the soldiers who didn't want to attend because it was against either their religious views or they just thought it was wrong,
or they were
they were punished.
How were they punished?
Well, it was just a few years ago, and it was in Virginia. It was Fort Belvoir, maybe, or Fort. It was someplace in Northern Virginia, and there was a Christian rock group, and they had a concert, and it was part of like this. It was part of like this Christian rock concert series It was like
Yeah.
they even had a name for it, like Captain Spirituality Rock Music Series or something like that. And there was a group of soldiers who decided they didn't want to go, either because they were atheists, they were Muslim, or they just didn't want to go. And I'm sure that this was I'm fairly certain that this was an isolated incident, but they were assigned to quarters and assigned punishment duties.
Wow. And it's very, very strange because in our other show, Coalesce, with Matt.
It was Fort Eustis.
Fort Eustis. That's even closer.
That is
That's
way
not Northern
closer.
Virginia. That's right
Yeah.
across the water.
Yep. But in the other show that we do, Regent University, and I brought this up but didn't get an answer for it, but they give students and high school students tours of Homeland Security, of the Pentagon, and all these military establishments within the government to try to get them, to train them with certain classes and things. You can go to their website now and check it out, to train youth so when they get out of school, they can go into these military establishments. But it's Regent University. We know that their sword and shield is that of God. So with that, knowing that they're being conditioned to be trained, to be taught to go into these establishments and doing these Christian concerts and doing stuff like the Bible, it does sound like that they are building, as you said, using the U.S. Army, the armed forces to be, become the army of God.
I mean, maybe it's part of their long-term plan. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I said, it sounds sinister, but when I was in the military, it was I remember in boot camp. I don't know. Like I guess at that time I was maybe nominally religious, but it was a Navy boot camp. It wasn't Marine boot camp or anything like that. And but it still sucked. And if you wanted to go to church services on Sunday, you could. But if you just were like, well, hey, I'm an atheist. How about I just sleep in an extra 2 hours? That doesn't fly.
Yeah.
So you were there wasn't an explicit endorsement of religion, but there was certainly a tacit one where they accommodated you if you wanted to go to their on base church services. But I don't remember there being any Muslim religious services, and certainly no acknowledgement of atheists. And
Yeah, of
you
course
ended
not.
every night with prayer.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. And
Huh.
I remember on the ship too. We talked about that
Yeah.
too, where they had evening prayer on the ship when we were out to sea, and we used to laugh about it so much. Oh God, please bless this ship of war, that it may blow thine enemy to tiny bits in thy mercy.
Here comes Monty Python again.
Yeah,
which,
I know, right? It's always
That
back
was
to
great.
Monty Python.
It always comes back to Monty Python. Why is
Which
that?
is great. I love that.
Beautiful. But speaking of Monty Python, we can use this to transition to our last topic, which I guarantee will take up the rest of the time we have. But actually, let's before we do that, let's bring up our audio book because
Are you talking
right
about
about
the Catholic Church in
Mark.
Virginia? Is that the next topic?
No.
Well, I want to bring up that before we jump into the full show topic.
What's the Catholic Church thing?
Well, we know in Virginia, a Catholic priest is being brought up against sexual abuse charges because he sexually abused a woman during an exorcism he was performing on her. Did I not send that to you?
No,
I thought I
No.
Damn it! I thought I sent it to you.
No. Who is it?
I remember this.
And it's, the sad part is the reason I don't read comments is because I was like, well, I'll read the comments because you're always like, the comics are the best part of the
they
story.
are.
And I had to stop reading it because people were idiots and they were like, well, she's dumb anyway. She believed she had a demon inside of her, so she deserved it. Bullshit.
No, nobody deserves it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that aside, what happened was this woman went to a Catholic church. They invited her back twice to evaluate her, and they determined that she had a demon and needed to be exorcised. And so she came back. They performed the exorcism. The priest laid down on top of her full body, groped her inner thigh, groped her boobs, kissed her on the sides of her mouth, and kind of put breath all over her body, saying he was putting the Spirit of Christ in her while groping her and kissing her, and doing all these strange things to her during the exorcism. And she's filing charges against him, and now he's under.
Oh my gosh!
So I can't believe I didn't send that to you. Sorry, but
Yeah, I can't believe you didn't send that to us.
I thought. I did.
Oh, that's good though. It's good.
But it happened right here in our home state. I guess not
man.
home state, but where we currently live.
That's
So crazy, man. Like that's I'll never understand exorcisms until we get Bob Larson on the show.
I want
So-
Bob Larson.
oh.
Blah, 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 I can't-
Bob Larson, come on our show.
Bob,
But isn't that like I mean,
you
the
worship the devil
accusation
unless
is,
you come on this show.
The priest was engaged in bizarre behavior during the exorcism. The fact that you're doing an exorcism means you're engaged in bizarre behavior.
Yeah.
You should see the picture of this
Oh my gosh.
douchebag.
Oh.
It's like, what is he thinking? I mean, seriously, he's like doing this. She's like, oh, I can take advantage of this girl because she thinks she has a demon. I can do whatever I want.
Yeah,
What a
you know what?
fucking creep.
Yeah, absolutely.
I need to engage in what we do in the Latin rite as a completely nude exorcism.
Yeah. It only works when you have your clothes off.
Yeah. Oh God.
Trust
Right.
me, I've
That's
done this
fucked up.
before.
Trust me.
So fucked up.
I'm a
I've got away
priest,
with this before.
but I lie.
But anyway, now we can
All right.
do the book.
On a lighter topic. So take a minute to plug a book, and it's one of my
pun
favorite
intended.
books. So you can go to audibletrial.com/TNRL. They sponsor the show. Sign up for the free 30-day trial membership. You get a free audio download. And the book this week we're suggesting is Lamb, The Gospel According to Biff, Christ's Childhood Pal by Christopher Moore. It is a great piece of satire. I was just saying last night there's not enough satire in my life, so I think I'm going to have to reread this book. It is a fake gospel written by the resurrected Levi Bar Alphaeus, or Biff, as his mother called him, because she was always smacking him upside the head. And him and the Archangel Raziel hole up in a hotel while he has to write his own gospel account. So it covers from the time Jesus was about 6 until the crucifixion, and they travel across the world into the Far East. If you ever want to know what it would be like if Jesus knew Kung Fu, this is the book.
always wanted
it's
to
pretty
know.
awesome.
I think it's one of those things like we can't know if Jesus actually did kung fu, but he probably did.
He probably did.
Yeah.
Everybody does kung fu.
If he didn't do Kung Fu, he should have.
Yeah,
And this is what it would be like.
because he was badass. I like that idea of Jesus having like a teenage pal. You know, I'm just thinking of like how cool was teenage Jesus.
One of the best parts is when Jesus is trying. Bear in mind, in the book they call him Joshua or Josh, because that's the actual translation of Yeshua into English. Calls him Josh. Mary Magdalene is called Maggie. But Josh is trying to figure out sin. He doesn't know how to be the Messiah unless he can understand sin. So he literally pays for Biff to sleep with a prostitute in a stall next to him so he can understand. And he's having Biff describe the experience to him. It's pretty hilarious.
So it's kind of like the exorcism that we just talked about.
Right.
Yeah, kinda.
This is our first book we've suggested that's not actually like an academic book or some kind of like heavy read.
Yeah.
This is
Honestly,
without the
one of my
lightest
favorite books. I have it in hardcover, and it looks like a Bible. It has the gilded pages and the ribbon bookmark and everything, and it's
book. Nice.
absolutely wonderful. So, audibletrial.com/TNRL, free 30-day membership, free trial. So you get one audio download with it, and this is a great one.
Awesome.
It'd be even better if the guy reading it does it in like a surfer Matthew McConaughey voice.
It's funny because the paperback version, has Jesus and Biff walking, like, and Biff sort of has like dreadlocks. Okay, so new film coming out from one of Bob's favorite filmmakers.
Kirk Cameron?
Yeah.
Yes. No, Paul Verhoeven.
Paul Verhoeven.
Yeah, so if you don't know who he is, he did RoboCop and Total Recall and Basic Instinct. And he did, what else? I was just saying. What else has he done?
His career is full of highs and lows, right? There was RoboCop and Total Recall, but he also did Showgirls. That was that was a movie like so craptastic it was good. And Starship Troopers was really good. Flesh and Bone, or Flesh and Blood, and then The Fourth Man and Black Books is really good.
He did Hollow Man, which is terrible.
Yeah. So he's in and out, but he is one of my favorite film directors. And this is like one of those instances where like my worlds have overlapped. There's like movies and then like secular atheism stuff. And
so people are probably wondering why we're talking about Paul Verhoeven and RoboCop and all that, but he's putting out a new movie.
I don't think anybody ever wonder why you're talking about RoboCop. I mean, that's evident.
Right, it's RoboCop.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, sure. Anyway, he's putting out a new movie, and Christians are pretty upset about it because it's a new depiction of the life of Jesus, and it makes Jesus the son of a Roman soldier who actually raped Mary, which actually has a really ancient tradition behind it.
Yeah.
The first time we actually hear about this is from Celsus, who was a pagan philosopher, and he wrote extensively against Christianity. And we don't have any of his writings anymore, but we do have the writings of people like Origen, who wrote against him. And he believed that Jesus was the son of a Roman soldier named Pandera, or the Panther, who raped Mary.
You know, I've actually didn't Price talk about this in one of his either like Bible Geek or Human Bible or something, where he was saying like that the Panther name was like a really common nickname among Roman soldiers. Like
yeah, why wouldn't it be, right? The Panthers are pretty badass.
Yeah, so all right, so I love when anytime anybody takes this, you know, sort of like historical Jesus viewpoint, and they want to talk about the man. In fact, Verhoeven's movie is tentatively titled Jesus: the Man, right? And he's written a book too that came out in like 2004. And Verhoeven's book is called Jesus of Nazareth. And in the book, and the movie's supposed to be based on his book. And in the book, he presents a completely demystified Jesus. He just deals with like the man as he lived. And remember, Scorsese tried to do that a little bit with The Last Temptation of Christ. Not really demystifying him, but presenting Jesus as somebody who wanted to be a man. And then the Catholic Church got all up in arms about that one too. But in Verhoeven's movie, Jesus the Man, he wants to present this perceived historically accurate account of the man, not the Son of God, not the worker of miracles, not the healer of the sick, but the man.
Yeah, he shows him more as an ethicist and a sort of like radical teacher than a mystic Son of God, like divine entity. Yeah, which is really kind of interesting. But I remember reading this and thinking, and like I know, Yeshua Bar Pandera is the name given to Jesus in the Toledoth Yeshu, which is a Jewish anti-gospel. And I know that Celsus talked about it, but every time I think about it, it makes me think of Monty Python's Life of Brian.
Yeah, how can you not land there? I get there every time.
Biggest dickus.
Yeah. And like that scene where Brian is talking to his mom, And he's like, I hate the Romans. And she's like, well, you shouldn't hate the Romans. You're one of them. He's like, what? And she says that she was raped by a Roman. And he was like, Mom, you were raped. And she goes, well, at first.
I love it. I love Monty Python. It's so good. And this is exactly where I landed.
I can't help it.
Biggest dickus and incontinentia buttocks.
Yeah.
We were talking about it yesterday.
He has a wife, you know.
Do you find my friend's name funny?
That is so good too. You know, and that whole idea of Brian Cohen being born in the manger right next to Jesus of Nazareth.
Two Monty Python references aside.
But what's so funny about that story is he never, like he winds up in this Messiah role entirely by accident. He never even wanted it. It just was put on him, you know.
He gave us his shoe.
Yeah.
It means we should gather shoes. No, it means we should take one shoe off and walk with only one shoe.
Yeah, that was so funny. And then, like, when he's like, I'm not the Messiah. And they're like, that's exactly what the Messiah would say. All right, I am the Messiah.
Like when his mother comes out onto the balcony and he is a very naughty boy.
I know. As funny as it is, I hope Verhoeven's movie is a little more serious.
Yeah, no. I'm sure it will be. Because he, like we were talking about before, he's a member of the Jesus Seminar.
Yeah, and that I didn't know. I didn't know that about Verhoeven, that he was a member of the Jesus Seminar. In fact, I really didn't even know who the Jesus Seminar was until very, very, very recently.
Well, what is it, just for us who don't know?
Oh,
all right. Well, that's why I was gonna toss that one up and hit it over to Ken. Ken, tell us about the Jesus Seminar.
The Jesus Seminar is a group of mostly academics. Paul Verhoeven is not an academic, but a vast majority of them are academics, and they are all biblical scholars or ancient historians, and they tend to try and figure out who the historical Jesus was, and looking at the Bible, what sections of sayings tend to go back to an authentic Jesus. And they actually have a version of the Bible that's color-coded, and the whole thing is decided by consensus. They all vote. They actually have a very intricate system of beads where one color bead means very sure, kind of sure, unsure, don't think it's likely, and think it's completely unlikely.
But the Jesus Seminar presents a demystified Jesus as well, don't they? They take away all the miracles. It's very much like the Jefferson Bible, I think.
Generally, yeah. I'd be amiss to say that they're secular, but they seem to have more of a secular slant on Jesus than a wholly theological one. And they take a lot of flack from, especially the more conservative, like seminarians and theologians out there for that, who want to say that the entire Bible is inspired, where they're trying to get down to what is authentic. And I think their consensus is about 18% of the sayings in the Bible most likely go back to an authentic Jesus. But it's been years and years and years in the deciding process.
Yeah. Well, one of the criticisms that I read about them, and like I said, I'm new in this game, but one of the criticisms that I read was that they relied too heavily on Q. And so, can you tell us what Q is? Yeah,
that's Q is it comes from German Quelle, which means source. There's a number of theories about the Synoptic Gospels, which is Mark, Matthew, and Luke. They're absolutely interconnected to one another. There's a lot of literary dependence, but there's a lot of material that is in both Matthew and Luke, which does not appear in Mark, and that's attributed to a source known as Q. It's a completely hypothetical source. It's a non-extant source. We don't have Q anymore. We don't know what's in Q. So when people talk about Q, they're just talking about material that is common to both Luke and Matthew, especially when it's a verbatim agreement that's not in Mark.
Well, all right. So do me a favor, like put this on the retard level for me a little bit. Like tell me how this happens as a story, like as these gospels are being written.
Okay, it's called the four source theory, or the two source theory generally, but the four source theory is a bit more, I think, believable. So around the year, sometime between the year 60 and 70, you have Mark. Mark is written. Really, Mark is a little more than a passion narrative with an extended introduction talking about a very brief ministry that Jesus had. There's no real reason to write it down because it's already memorable anyway. But then you have another source, which is the Q source. This is a more likely thing to be written down because it's all sayings. It's very little narrative. It's just essentially things that Jesus said, or things that people thought Jesus said. Couple decades later, someone...
I'm sorry to interrupt.
What's that?
But the Q source wasn't one book. It's just a hypothetical grouping of the stuff that was written down outside of Mark.
We don't know if it's one book or multiple books. The fact that so much material appears in both Matthew and Luke tends to lean towards the fact that it was a single written source rather than a grouping of sources. But it could have been a grouping of sources as well. That's the problem, is we don't have it, so we don't really know what it was.
Okay, all right.
But it was definitely a written tradition.
All right, please continue.
So Matthew took much material from Q and used it to flush out Mark, which is why Mark is only 16 chapters, and Matthew is much, much longer, and so is Luke. And Luke the theory tends that Luke did the same thing. So Matthew takes his own written sources and oral sources and combines them with Mark and this sayings tradition in Q. And Luke does the same thing, where he takes Mark and the sayings tradition and then his own sources as well, and sort of combines them together. So it makes Matthew and Luke very similar in that they share two sources, Mark and the sayings tradition. And that's... there are a number of other theories that posit you don't need Q, and I have to admit, even myself, I'm hesitant to accept Q without criticism, because it's hard to put all your stock in a source that you don't have anymore.
Right.
One piece of evidence in Q's favor, though, is the Gospel of Thomas, which shows that these sort of sayings gospels did exist.
But the Gospel of Thomas is apocryphal, yeah?
Yeah, it's apocryphal.
Or non-canonical.
Yeah, non-canonical is probably a better term for it. Apocrypha definitely carries its own value judgments.
So what's in Thomas?
Thomas is a sayings gospel. It's also incredibly Gnostic, but it's less narrative and more saying. So it's Jesus saying a lot of things and very little doing, as opposed to Mark, where Jesus doesn't say much, but he does a lot. So,
I think it's funny. Like, so, I like hearing you talk about it, and probably go on for days. But I think it's funny that if you examine the Bible as a human document that had precursors and influences and there were edits and rewrites, things begin to fall together. The puzzle pieces fit. It's when you consider the Bible as an inspired document, then you have to start making excuses for it.
Yeah, exactly. When you look at it like scholars look at it as a human document written in pieces and containing individual parts, you begin to recognize that there's this was written probably for this reason, and this was written probably for this reason. This was written for probably this reason, and that's form criticism. When you take a gospel and you break it down into its various pericope, which are sort of self-contained stories, and you see, look at the differences between them if they occur in different gospels, or looking at how far back in the manuscript tradition they go. Like one example is the woman caught in adultery. Most people know the story of in John, where it's John 7:53 through 8:11, where Jesus stops the two Pharisees from carrying the woman who was caught in adultery, and they're going to stone her. And he starts writing their own sins in the sand with his foot, and says, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. Very, very late introduction into the gospel narratives. Doesn't appear in any of the oldest sources. Codex Sinaiticus, which is a 4th century Bible, doesn't have it. Codex Vaticanus doesn't have it. I believe Codex Alexandrinus doesn't have it. These are some of the oldest Bibles we have. And then sometimes it appears in other places in John's. There's a couple times it appears in Luke. It looks like it was actually just a story that someone wrote on the side of a narrative. Scribes used to do this. They used to try and explain bits and pieces by writing their own narratives, and a later scribe thought the previous scribe had just forgotten to place that in the section, then wrote it in the margin, so it got moved into the main text itself, and hence we have, it's called the pericope adulterae.
That's the whole picking it apart. That's I think that's pretty interesting. And if we hadn't already recommended Ehrman's book, then we probably would have done that today. So back to the Jesus Seminar. Another criticism that I read about them was that another thing that they lean too heavily upon is the problem of embarrassment, and I didn't quite know what that meant.
The problem of embarrassment, they tend to believe that things are more authentic when they can't be easily explained. So when something shows Jesus in less than a flattering light, it's more likely to be authentic, because why would someone make up an unflattering story about Jesus? And sometimes that's true. I tend to believe that sometimes it's just, who knows? I mean, there's any number of reasons. It's in textual studies, there's the idea that the more difficult reading is typically the original one.
Yeah, well, that's the problem of difficulty, right?
Yeah, and embarrassment sort of falls into that. So, why show Jesus in an unflattering light when you could whitewash it and show him in a much better light? And they tend to believe that those embarrassing moments are more likely to be authentic and go back to an authentic Jesus tradition than ones that are a little more, sort of cleaned up.
Yeah. And so I think it's interesting what the Jesus Seminar does, where they have that voting system, and they reach consensus on what they think is most likely true and most likely a fabrication. So how often do they meet, and how often do we know how often they revise their opinions, or how often they vote again? That would be neat to find.
I honestly have no idea. I know they meet regularly. I mean, it's just like any other sort of a group like that, like the SBL, or so they have regular meetings. I know they tend to have, I think they have once a year, big conferences and stuff.
Yeah. When do you get your invite?
What's that? I
said, when do you get your invite?
Yeah, I would love to be a member of the Jesus Seminar just to see how they work. John Dominic Crossan's a prominent member of the Jesus Seminar. He's if you don't know who he is, he's probably one of the biggest people in historical Jesus research.
Yeah, that was pretty neat. I did not know that about Paul Verhoeven.
Neither did I.
And he is one of my favorite film directors. And I can see this movie is gonna piss a lot of people off. They're just gonna.
It's probably gonna piss you off.
It might. It might. It might piss me off the same way Prometheus pissed me off.
Oh no.
We fought about this for an hour and 15 minutes, and recorded it, so you can listen to that on the past episode of The Talking Dead.
Oh no. You didn't like it?
Not really, no.
I haven't seen it yet.
There's some theology in Prometheus. There's some it had what is it? Eschatology is end of the world stuff, and what is beginning of the world stuff?
Genesis.
But it also challenges evolution.
It doesn't challenge evolution.
The same way it challenges religious faith. Because by having the engineer take the whatever that black stuff was and disintegrate into the water, and if that created humans, if that's the direction that it's going, then evolution is out.
All right, one, it's a movie.
But we're talking now it's a movie, but when you're arguing it, it's anyway. I want to bring breaking news because people are freaking out, blowing up my phone about it. Anderson Cooper has come out
as
being gay.
Anderson Cooper?
Yep.
Okay. Awesome.
I'm just people are freaking out about it right now.
People are blowing up your phone over Anderson Cooper being gay.
Yeah.
Do they not have better things to do with their time?
That's a big step. He's like
generally not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, why do you undermine people?
No, I know. I don't care.
The same way you undermine Prometheus, you just
Yeah.
He
just doesn't like it. Okay.
Just in the last few minutes, did you see we got the invite to the ODU Student Secular Alliance fundraising dinner?
I did actually. My phone has started blowing up whenever I get something on Facebook. I don't know why it started doing this randomly, but it's doing it now. Yeah, I saw that actually, and you guys should definitely go.
Yeah, I think we should figure out how to go. It's a Saturday on August 4th.
I will be out of the country attending a wedding, but
even then you'll be on the wrong coast.
No, I'll be in Eastern time.
Oh yeah.
Yep. I'll be just up near Toronto.
He's not going to a real country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just out of the country. Canada's not out of the country.
I think Bob needs a geography lesson.
I know. Oh man! So another meme that's been making me chuckle and that's been running around that made me think of it was now that the healthcare reform has been upheld by the Supreme Court. There's that meme going around about it has the Canadian flag about all these people that said like, oh, I'm moving to Canada, and it's like, yeah, Canada where they have socialized healthcare and abortion is legal and 45% of the people are atheists, and wow, what was another one too that was so funny?
I like that one. I like the one that it was like all the radical conservatives who are upset about the healthcare reform were going to leave the country, but they couldn't find a wealthy industrial nation that didn't have universal healthcare.
Well, there's another meme that's been going around. I don't know how true it is, but it takes that Christian right, and it's like, all right, well, you want to go someplace that has like a strong religious emphasis in their government, and they do this thing. They unlimited.
They love the death penalty, and
there was a whole bunch of other things too. Marriage is strictly defined as a man and a woman. And homosexuality is illegal, and there were some other things too about their economy is based largely on exploitation of natural resources, and there was some other things. But anyway, at the bottom it's like, and it's Iran.
Yeah, I saw one. It was all that, and it was like, is this heaven? Is it paradise? It's Iran.
Yeah. Yeah, it sort of listed those qualities that the right or the
loved so
conservative
much. Yeah.
Christian right would deem as favorable or desirable, and they're all present in Iran.
Yeah, that's.
But I didn't look at that too
I love
close. So
it.
that may not all be true. But
It's a
funny.
meme. It can't be. It's
I know, right? I saw it on the internet.
It
Jason.
must
It
be.
true.
You know, I was actually thinking about that because I remember that gigantic thread that was about vaccines and homeopathy and all that nonsense on my page that you got into.
That sucked. I got gish
It-
galloped.
Yeah, that's what I like. I'm beginning to deem as the everything on the internet is true except for whoever I'm arguing with.
Yeah.
I can find a million YouTube videos to prove my point. Talking heads that have no scientific authority whatsoever, but they're on the internet, so therefore,
I know, right?
it's true.
Right, and so here's the thing that I want to stress. If we haven't said it before, if you see my dumbass on the internet talking about anything, should you believe me? No, not at all. Go find out for yourself, and that's why we recommend books, and that's why we talk about refereed journal articles.
Yes.
And with that said, we should take it out.
Just take it out now. So, if you have any questions, comments, outbursts, you want to correct us on something we said tonight or this morning, I don't even know what time it is.
The grip of Satan.
Apparently, Satan.
Turn red.
You can call the ZPN hotline 757-337-2195. You can email us nonreligious at zombie-popcorn.com. Facebook.com/thisnonreligiouslife. Google Plus, find us there. Put us in your circles. iTunes, we have all the shows. This is episode 58, I think.
Shows.
We're almost at 60.
Almost 60, which is a lot if you ever wanted to watch all of them, because they're all about an hour long. It would take you several days.
And then you would probably want to kill us afterwards.
Yeah, possibly. But you can rate us and leave feedback there. We love seeing the feedback. A lot of great feedback on the iTunes page, and we thank everyone for leaving that there. Stitcher Radio.
Thumbs up, share, do that, because the more you thumbs up and share on Stitcher, the higher we get, and Stitcher will promote us if we get thumbs ups and likes and happiness.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great system. You don't need to download anything. You don't need to sync. You can just listen to it on the go, select the show, and just go. Just go to the website. Check out our website, Zombie Popcorn. You're probably there now. You sign up for the newsletter. You get all our wonderful updates, shows. And as a heads up, we are going into the last week of the giveaway for my book, the Pentateuch Source Critical Version of the 5 Books of Moses. So you have 1 week left, and then we'll announce the winner on next Monday. So go do it.
Okay.
And I guess that's it.
That is it. Have a good night.
Good night.
Jesus got out here.
I thought I was a good Christian.
Jesus died on a cross. I go to church every Sunday. Jesus got out here. Then I read that this Jesus died on a cross for a rotten hooker.
I thought I was a good Christian.
I go to church every Sunday.
I thought I was a good Christian.
I go to church every Sunday. I'm a very religious person.
I thought I was a good Christian.
The very lies the serpent told to Eve in the Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spread confusion and promote lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spread confusion and promote lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spread confusion and promote lies.